I was in a meeting last week watching a colleague, let's call him Dave, give this big presentation on a new strategy.
Ah, the proverbial Dave.
Exactly. And on the surface, it was flawless. The slides were beautiful. The data was super comprehensive. His script was perfect. He's just clicking through, beaming.
He's got the AI-generated polish.
Totally.
Yeah.
Then, at the very end, the director asks him a simple off-script question. She says, "This is great, Dave, but what's the one part of this you're least confident in? What's your personal reservation?"
Oh, no.
And he just froze. I mean, total panic on his face. He started stammering, tried to look at his notes. It was so obvious in that moment. Dave hadn't used the AI to help him think. He'd used it to avoid thinking. He didn't build the argument. He just, prompted it.
That moment of panic, that is the perfect encapsulation of the challenge right now for everyone. That email that sounds polished but feels hollow. The report that's technically perfect but has no actual, voice.
Exactly. And that's the central tension we're facing. In a world where AI can produce this perfect stuff instantly, how do we as humans actually generate anything that requires real thought or unique perspective? So this deep dive is all about that shift, the strategic and personal change needed to create what we're calling the generative human.
And that's so much bigger than just a new training module. It's a strategic imperative. It touches leadership, your competitive strategy, even the whole design of education.
Right.
What we're trying to do here is figure out the blueprint for both organizations and individuals for true human augmentation, where AI is a tool, a workbench, not just an automation machine.
Let's solve the Dave problem at scale. So let's start at the business end.
Yeah.
Competitive advantage. I mean, the old sources of advantage, they feel like they're just getting commoditized. If I spend 5 years and $1 billion on R&D, that's my moat. But if AI can do it in a few months, that moat is gone.
It's not just gone. It's evaporating at warp speed. Just look at the pharmaceutical industry. Getting a new drug target validated, ready for trials. That used to be a massive differentiator.
Yeah, that took years, right? And hundreds of millions of dollars.
Up to 6 years, and often over $400 million. But then you have in silico medicine. They just developed the world's first generative AI-designed drug in 18 months.
18 months.
For about $2.6 million. So when time and capital basically disappear as the main barriers, the whole game changes. The advantage has to come from somewhere else entirely.
Okay, so if everyone has access to similar models, where does that differentiation come from? What are the new moats?
We're seeing 3 critical ones emerge. The first is what we call differentiation of data. For years, companies have focused on structured data, the clean spreadsheets, the tidy databases.
Right, the easy stuff. But that's what all the big models are already trained on.
Exactly, that's the commodity. The real value, the true differentiator, is in 2 other places. Unstructured data, which is like 70% of all enterprise data.
So you mean things like meeting transcripts, internal memos, emails?
All that messy, proprietary stuff. And the second part is increasingly synthetic data.
Okay, now synthetic data is interesting. You're saying AI creates data that isn't real just to train your other models. Why is that such a game changer?
Because you create this feedback loop that no one can copy. You take your messy, unstructured data, master it, and then use your models to generate new synthetic data based on your reality. You're training your AI on a world only you can see.
So the output becomes incredibly specific and valuable.
Okay, that makes sense.
What's the second new advantage?
The strength of your digital core. You have to move beyond being just an AI buyer, just using off-the-shelf tools.
Like subscribing to ChatGPT.
Right. You need to become a booster, or ideally, a builder. A booster takes those models and integrates them with their own proprietary data. Think of Microsoft's LavaMed for biomedical images. They fine-tune an existing model in just one day to create a specialist tool.
And a builder creates the whole engine themselves.
Precisely. Bloomberg is the prime example there with Bloomberg GPT. A custom-built model trained specifically on their decades of financial data. That kind of customization is, it's basically an insurmountable advantage in their niche.
And the third one, this feels like it ties right back to Dave, the rate of learning.
This is the existential one. The half-life of skills is declining so fast that your only real advantage is how quickly your organization can learn. And we found that only 26% of executives even have a complete 3-year skills roadmap.
Wait. Only 1 in 4 companies has a clear plan for the skills they'll need in 36 months.
That's it.
That's terrifying. It's a recipe for catastrophic obsolescence.
It guarantees you will have a workforce of Daves. People who can give you the perfect AI answer today, but are totally unprepared for tomorrow because they haven't actually learned how to adapt. If your organization can't learn, it can't compete. Simple as that.
And if learning speed is the new edge, then bureaucracy is the ultimate enemy, isn't it? You can't learn fast if you need 3 levels of approval for every little project.
It forces a structural change. You have to move toward flatter, more networked organizations. The traditional pyramid is just too slow.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, the case study everyone looks at is Hair, the appliance company, and their Rendan-Hei model.
I've heard of this. It sounds pretty radical.
Oh, it was profoundly disruptive. They eliminated over 12,000 middle management roles.
That's 1,000.
And reorganized the entire company into thousands of autonomous micro-enterprises. Little teams, maybe 10 to 15 people, responsible for their own P&L, their own R&D, everything. It pushed all the decision-making right to the edge, closest to the customer.
Wow.
And the result?
Their product cycle shrank from about 3 to 4 years, which is the industry standard, to under 12 months. That speed, enabled by that structure, is the competitive advantage.
Okay, so if the organization is flat and agile, and AI is handling the routine stuff, what does a human leader even do anymore? It feels like their role has to shift from technical expertise to something else. It shifts entirely to what we call power skills. The old leadership model was all about control, authority, top-down delegation.
The leader is the commander with all the answers.
Exactly. The new environment requires influence, collaboration, empowerment. The leader's job is no longer to have the answer. It's to ask the best question.
That has to be a huge identity crisis for people who built their careers on being the smartest person in the room.
It absolutely is. Their value shifts completely. And for that, 3 power skills become critical. The first is emotional intelligence, or EI.
Why is EI suddenly so important in a flat organization?
Because when you get rid of hierarchy, you have to rely on influence. And influence runs on trust. EI is what you need to build the psychological safety for these small, decentralized teams to take risks, fail fast, and learn.
So trust is the lubricant for speed. Makes sense. What's the second skill?
Adaptive thinking. AI accelerates market changes so fast that leaders have to be able to pivot strategies quickly, often with incomplete information. Being comfortable with uncertainty is now a core competency.
And the third skill feels like the direct antidote to the Dave problem.
It is. Critical thinking and problem solving. The leader's main job is to question the assumptions inside the AI's output. If the AI says, launch strategy X, the leader's job is to ask, what biases were in that data? What variables did the AI ignore? They provide the framework for analysis.
I could just picture the struggle, though. You know, we've all worked with that heroic leader who needs to have the answer immediately. Now you're asking them to be a humble enabler who just says, what if we're wrong?
The transition is agonizing. And it often leads to this pitfall we call the reluctant delegator.
What's that?
It's the leader who says they believe in empowerment, but they just can't let go of control. So they assign the work, but then fail to delegate the actual autonomy, the real decision-making authority.
Oh, I've seen this. It's the go run this project, but I need to approve every single email you send.
Exactly. It signals this profound lack of trust. And you end up with all the friction of the old model and none of the speed of the new one.
And that's a system problem, isn't it? If we look back at Dave, he was probably in his system that rewarded him for having perfect slides, not for having a personal reservation.
100%. For this transformation to actually stick, the company has to change its internal machinery. Performance management, promotion criteria, it all has to be re-engineered. If you keep promoting the heroic leader who dominates the meeting, you'll just revert to the old behaviors no matter what your org chart looks like.
Which brings us right back to the foundation of all of this. How are we actually preparing people for this? The Dave problem is basically this risk called cognitive offloading, right? The tech does the thinking and our brains get lazy.
Cognitive offloading is the real threat. And we have some pretty concerning evidence, especially from education. There's a study where students who relied heavily on AI writing tools showed a 35% reduction in their independent writing quality after just 6 months once the AI was taken away.
35%. That's not a dip, that's a collapse.
It's a collapse of skill. The AI scaffolding, it's substituted for learning instead of supporting it, which directly threatens that rate of learning advantage we talked about. If your cognitive fitness is declining, how can you possibly adapt faster?
So what's the solution? How do we use these tools without them, making us dumber?
The solution is a fundamental shift from AI as automation to AI as augmentation. We have to start seeing AI as an exoskeleton for the educator and for the learner. Let it handle the admin, the repetitive tasks, so the human is freed up for mentorship, creative inspiration, and complex problem solving.
And for the learner, that means the curriculum has to change. It can't just be about the final product anymore.
Precisely. You have to design assignments that force students to use AI as a creative partner, not a replacement. So instead of use AI to write a marketing campaign, the assignment is use AI to generate 5 divergent market insights and then write a critique of those insights to build your own strategy.
So the cognitive load, the actual thinking, stays with the student.
It has to, but this creates a huge crisis for assessment, doesn't it? If AI can write a perfect essay, the traditional essay is dead as an evaluation tool.
So how do you measure learning?
You have to move to process-based evaluation. You assess the journey, not just the destination. You look at their reflection journals, how they documented their strategic pivots, their critical analysis of the AI's output.
So you're graded not on getting the right answer, but on how well you can explain how you got to your answer and why you rejected the other ones.
Correct. And you also have to prioritize AI-resistant assessments, things AI just can't do. Socratic seminars where you have to argue a point in real time, laboratory work that requires physical interaction. These things demand human judgment in a way a language model just can't replicate.
And the ultimate goal under all of this has to be teaching people how to learn.
That's it, meta-learning. The only durable advantage any of us has is the ability to learn how to learn. We're not preparing people for a specific job anymore. We're preparing them for constant transformation.
So this whole deep dive really shows that surviving this era requires this integrated transformation. We started with business strategy, how advantage now comes from unique data, a strong digital core, and just learning faster.
And we saw how that pressure forces companies to get flatter, more agile, like hair, which in turn demands a whole new kind of leader one defined by power skills like EI and critical thinking, not just giving orders.
And finally, it all comes back to the foundation of learning itself. Shifting from AI as automation, which leads to cognitive offloading, to AI as augmentation. It means redesigning how we teach and how we test to reward that critical partnership with technology.
The through line is clear. To become a generative human, you have to make this deliberate and frankly difficult move away from passive compliance and toward an active, critical partnership with technology. It's a culture war against intellectual laziness.
Which means the true measure of success in this new era isn't what AI can do on its own, but what we as humans can accomplish with it when our own judgment and creativity are truly in the driver's seat.